everyone, and welcome to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike Piwowarski, and I am your co-host, coming to you live from the East Coast. That's the co-host with the most, from the coast with the most, here on the Rundown. 2A views, conservative news. And Mr. DeLuz, how was your weekend, sir?
Actually, it was an excellent weekend. Had a really good time. Got a chance yesterday to spend some time with Patrick Collins, who was visiting the Sacramento region. So we had a good lunch together, had a few spirits, and some great conversation about how wacky California is.
Yeah, I can't believe he stooped so low to go to California. I mean, to visit you. I mean, to go to California.
So well, he wanted to see how the other half lived.
The other half? Oh, you mean like the West Coast half, or you mean?
Yeah. Well, he figured he decided to visit like the former Soviet Union, Prague, a little while back, and so he said, "Well, I want to see how really oppressed people live."
Well, all right. I guess that works. Expanding his horizons. I guess that'll work. That'll work.
I think he's like trying to get to know and better understand oppressive regimes.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good description right there. So
there you go. But no, we had a good time. We hung out for several hours. Just like I said, good guys. If any of you, by the way, are in Georgia, where is he in Georgia again?
He's in Hot Atlanta.
Hot Atlanta. So he's near Hot Atlanta. So if you're in the Atlanta area and you're looking for a decent gun trainer, or by the way, you're looking for good ammo prices, definitely the guy, Patrick Collins, definitely the guy to check out. Frequent commenter on the program.
Yeah, absolutely. The Gun Food, by the way, if you're looking for that ammo, thegunfood.com, if I recall correctly.
Yes, it is thegunfood.com. Anyway, check it out. Prices are always competitive. Service is superior.
There you go. It's mailed with love.
There you go. So how was your weekend?
Woo! I got in 1, 2, 3 more Oktoberfests this weekend, so that was rather good. Let's see, and got a little special treat on Saturday night. Got a call last minute from a buddy who said, "Hey, come on down here to the Hard Rock Live. They're watching Clerks 3. Really? The Kevin Smith movie. And then at the end of the movie, the curtains opened up, and Kevin Smith and Brian Halloran came out and did question and answers for well over an hour.
Oh, that would have been fun.
Yeah, that Kevin Smith, he's a talker, by the way.
Is he?
A talker. They had an hour and a half he talked. It was 3 questions he was answering.
Really? Yeah, see, that I don't like. So, get in more than a few questions.
Yep, they did. Good stuff. It was good stuff. Great movie. If you're a Clerks fan, or Mallrats or Dogma or any of that stuff, make sure you go see it.
Okay, that will definitely go on my must-watch list. All right. Well, hey, let's go ahead and let's get into it today. Why don't you go ahead and before we do though, why don't you go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsors?
Let's do it. Let's say hello to our good friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net, hitmanindustries.net. You've got yourself an AR in the past 5 years. You probably already have one of their barrels that don't even know it. But now you can buy direct from them for your next AR build, or replace the barrel in your current rifle. That's hitmanindustries.net. Fighting a good fight behind the enemy lines, or our good friends at the California Republican Assembly. It's election season, folks, so reach out and see what you can do to help them at the California Republican Assembly. And then, of course, if you want some awesome tactical gear, some web gear, some combat gear, go to uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. These are the folks who bring us to you in hopes that, we will bring you to them. So help us out with that. Why don't you go ahead, follow the links in the description to this program. Check them out, and I promise you'll like what you see. And when you like what you see, spend some money with them, buy some product, become a member, join their email list. Whatever it is, make sure that you connect with them and let them know that it was the fellas over at the Rundown that sent you.
Do it now.
Also, if you haven't done so, please take a point, like, share, subscribe. Folks, we're conservatives. We're pro-gun. We're fighting the algorithms. They don't want you to hear from us. They don't want the people to hear from us because, we're going to give them the truth. So we need your help. We need you to like, share, and subscribe. If you like it, then it'll push us up in the algorithms. If you share it, then most definitely the people who tend to share your views and your viewpoints and enjoy the stuff that you like, they're going to also tune into the program. And you can let them know they can watch us wherever they watch videos online, and they can also listen wherever they get their podcasts. But whatever you do, just encourage them to partake of the program.
There you go. Do it. Go watch them. Sign up. Get it done.
Man of you are so verbose today. I have no idea what to do. I can't even get a word in edgewise.
I don't smell verbose. It's weird.
I don't smell verbose. I like them. Okay, let's get into the first news story of the day. This first story it's nothing new to you because you've been watching this program. There has been tons of news out there in the mainstream media talking about all sorts of things, but they're not talking about the historic failure that COVID shutdowns were, in particular, COVID shutdowns of schools. Now, if you've been paying any attention to conservative media or this program, you would know that there's already been data out there and studies out there that students who were part of districts that were shut down during COVID-19, some for only a few weeks, some for several months, several for a few years. These students are facing, now we are finding not just epic education loss, but according to the research and test scores that are coming out from all across the country, we're talking about historic setbacks in terms of the amount of learning loss that students have had to face as a result of COVID shutdowns. And the reason why you know this all of a sudden is a thing is because now the mainstream media, Associated Press in this particular case, is actually writing on it. And Mike, when you read through this article, they try to dissuade and say, well, there's no real difference between states that shut down or stayed shut down and those that open back up. But you and I know that that's just not true.
Yeah, Craig, I did some research on that, and those would be lies. Those are what those are.
Yeah.
It's very clear. Listen, you see states like, Craig, your governor just declared the end of COVID, coming up in February or March?
February, at the end of February, which will basically be 3 years of emergency powers for the governor.
That's right. And in Florida, we had it for between 2 and 3 months, depending on what part of the state you were in, where COVID was shut down. And we've been, running full speed back to normal. Things like education. Now, there's been some fight. We know that because, some of the, more liberal leaning left. I can't come in. It'll kill me. That kind of stuff. And but it doesn't seem to be bothering anyone else. Once you take all due precautions, obviously. And if you're high risk, you do what you have to do. But we had a lot of unions and teachers unions fighting over that, trying to use the COVID as the crutch to get this year's salary increase. Anyway, we don't have the education lacking here as much as we did other places. Now we still have it. We still have being out for 3 months during a school year, and then over the summer we still have it. We see it on the developmental side with with team activities. We saw it with the classroom activities. It's starting now for those kids that were suffering through COVID, now that they're looking to go away to college, and they have to put those kind of stuff down on paper for the things they've done to try and get towards their, accepted to college. And they realize, I got nothing to put down. I got nothing to put down for that time. So it's definitely affected the youth here in our state. And listen, all around the country, it's absolutely ridiculous what's happened in many states.
Well, and as we suspected and as we knew was the case, it affected the most vulnerable students, low-performing students. The gap between high-performing and low-performing students grew even wider. Even though both decreased in performance, the gap was much wider for low-performing students, for low-income students, students of color. I mean, across the board, if you look at what was considered to quote-unquote to be a high-risk group, they were harmed the most by these shutdowns. And the thing that really got me was, all right, while the health experts who really didn't give a darn about education were saying, shut down the schools, shut down the schools, shut down the schools. By the way, the health experts weren't really doing that. It was more the unions and the politicians. But the people who are supposed to be standing up for our kids, the superintendents of public instruction, the policymakers, they weren't saying anything. None of them were asking, well, what data are we using to shut down these schools? Because we know there's going to be consequences. Well, guess what? Now we're starting to see what those consequences are. And it's been estimated that trillions of dollars of economic opportunity are going to be lost by this generation of students who have fallen behind and, quite frankly, may not catch up. Because unless the schools are going to be committed to the idea of getting them caught up before they graduate, because, we're more interested now in making kids feel good. So we don't want them to graduate late because, it'll make them feel bad. So we're more interested in how they feel than whether or not they actually are educated enough to be able to make it in society.
Yeah, think of the kind of college student they're going to be. Think of kind of the employee they're going to be, no matter what they happen to do after they all end up, graduating here. And I'm worried about those that were in high school during COVID. Now they're going to get out into the real world and realize you can't just take a year or two off when somebody says it might be bad or things might be looking. You can't just go and relax for a couple of weeks, months, or a year and do nothing. What kind of dedication? How are they going to sit at their job? Whether that's behind the wheel of a truck or behind a desk, and deal with adversity when it hits them, when they know that their formative years were, well, let's just quit and go home for a couple of years.
Right. Well, exactly. And once again, that's the psychological, aspect of it. That's not even just, once again, the fact that you just spent a year and a half not really learning anything, if not
right.
losing what you had learned before that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's gonna hit from both sides, and it's gonna hit, and we're gonna get to watch it and go, "Told you so, told you so."
Yeah, most definitely. All right, moving right along. Now, this next one is interesting because, well, first of all, for those of you who do not know, the Biden's loan program has actually been suspended. U.S. Appeals Court last week actually temporarily blocked Biden's student loan forgiveness program because, well, let's just be honest, it's unconstitutional. We have this thing called separation of powers, and under the separation of powers, legislation and the power of the purse exists in Congress. And so if you want to, forgive or write a check to a certain segment of the population for $500 billion, you kind of got to go through the legislative branch. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I was always, under the understanding from, conjunction junctions, what's your function, not conjunction, I mean from Schoolhouse Rock. That's right. From Schoolhouse Rock, that bills were passed in the legislative branch. But apparently that's not the case. Or, here's a better one. Evidently, the president believes that's supposed to be the case as well. Because during a recent interview, instead of acknowledging that the student loan forgiveness was passed or put in place via an executive order, he said it was actually the result of legislation. Check it out.
Secondly, if you don't have one of those loans, you just get 10,000 written off. It's passed. I got to pass by a vote or two. I got to pass by a vote or two. I got to pass by a vote or two. I got to pass by a vote or two.
What the fuck are you talking about?
So, Mike, let's just be real. Now, check this out. He didn't pass any legislation, did he?
Well, he never said, Greg, that he got it passed in Congress, okay? He might have been sitting in a room by himself and passed it by himself by one or two votes. Do you want to do it? I want to do it. And he might have raised both of his hands. He might have decided to do it. Maybe he takes a vote before he writes an executive action. I have no idea.
Well, I just believe that Joe Biden is so used to just saying whatever he wants in order to make his point that facts and what really happens doesn't matter at all. And he forgets or just doesn't realize that we are in a world where, people record the stuff you say. And it's real easy to go back and find out that you're full of crap.
Yeah, it's tough when you're the big guy, right?
Right.
His last boss used to tell him just, Joe, go back to your office. Joe, just sit there. But now he doesn't have that. Now he's got to sit up front and He's going to continue to say stupid things. And like you said, they had the body cam on him. They got the police video of him saying he got it passed by a vote or two. That's what he said. What gets me, Craig, is how troubling it is. This guy's clearly suffering from some sort of the onset of mental deficiency, whatever it may be, and we're all just okay with that. I mean, I know that you and I are not okay with it, and I know on the left, they're fine with it, but nobody seems to be doing anything about it. Is it one of those? Let's just cross our fingers and hope nothing happens within the next couple of years, or do we go ahead and actually try and demand that they take action, because it's day after day, hour after hour, there's more evidence that this guy's Looney Tunes at this point.
Well, but that's the thing is in this, what gets me is that now you have people in the White House saying, oh, well, that was taken out of context. Now, if you listen to the full interview, he specifically was talking about, he had made a comment about PPE, and his whole argument was, well, Republicans didn't have a problem with the PPE loans, but now they have a problem with student loan forgiveness. PPE loans, those are the loans that were forgiven. Well, first of all, a lot of Republicans had issues with it, there weren't many in Congress. But that having been said, a lot of folks had issues with it. But let's set that aside. Then he went on to talk about student loan forgiveness. And he was specifically talking about student loan forgiveness. And he was talking about how it worked, who would get what. And then he said that he got it passed. I'm like, no, you didn't. It's real obvious. The context was he was trying to act as if he passed this thing through Congress. So either one of two things is true here. Either he's just a liar, which we already know from his history. He's got a history of lying, of just flat out lying, even when he was younger. Plagiarism, making up degrees or stuff, making up that he was recruited into special forces and stuff like that. I mean, he just has a history of just making crap up, right? And stealing other people's stuff. So we already know that to be true. But is this that? Or is this, he is so senile, so suffering from dementia, that he doesn't realize that, this never passed. The whole point of the opposition is that it never went through Congress.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think it's more of the, senility, Craig. Just an additional one of the signs is, listen, we know how it affects memory, we know how it affects the recall, but now he's confusing, what really happened to him and what didn't happen. He's recalling Fantasyland as something real and filling in the public, the nation here with like it was fact. We're all like, what do you say? What do you say?
Right.
Just like old Mr. Brad Pitt there said in such an eloquent way.
Right. Well, you know what? And if you're just John Q. Citizen about to turn 80 years old and you confuse stuff like that, I get it. But you're not John Q. Citizen. You're the president of the United States. You don't get to confuse. I'm sorry. You don't get. I'm not saying I don't understand why this is happening. I'm saying that no, you don't get to do that. You're the president of the United States. I don't have to cut you slack for this. No, not a bit. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest.
No. He's at the mental capacity now where we wouldn't allow him to drive a car, but we're okay with him driving the country.
Well, exactly. He's driving a country. He can't drive a car. Well, but so let's take into account our next story, where the president actually, according to CNN, now if CNN says it, right? According to CNN, he has actually contradicted himself on deficit reduction and student loan relief. Now, here's what gets me about the whole contradiction when he's taking his victory lap over deficit reduction. The first thing is he reduced the deficit. Mike, do you know whose spending it was that he actually cut in terms of the deficit? Any takers? Any idea whose deficit he cut?
I'm going to go with he cut Canada's gun budget deficit.
No,
sorry. I'm out then.
He cut his own deficit. That's what's so crazy. It's like he actually cut the deficit for himself, for his own spending. The spending that he did.
He's a winner. He's a good one. Again, let's go back to the previous story. Does he look at those numbers and go, "Man, I did it," and not realize that that's his own numbers, that's his own year group, that's his own name next to the items that he's looking at? It's you know, if he makes it to the midterms, makes it through the midterms, I'll be surprised. I really will. It's not getting any better for him. We're seeing it advance quicker. It used to be the occasional guffaw, and now it's multiple a day is what we're seeing. They can't hide this and not address this anymore.
Well, and then at the same time, he contradicts himself by saying we're going to spend $500 billion in student loan forgiveness. And by the way, we recognize that spending more money decreases the value of the money that's out there, because we're literally just, it's not like we've got more money, we're just printing more money. Every dollar spent devalues every dollar that's already circulation, which drives up inflation. Then we've got our Inflation Reduction Act, which actually just increases inflation by, once again, increasing spending. And yet, and still, he's talking about how he cut the deficit.
Yeah, again, not quite all there. Not quite all there. He's not cognizant enough to understand the problem. All right, we see it over and over, no matter what he's talking about. Whether he's talking about student loans, whether he's talking about economy, whether he's talking about Second Amendment, whether he's talking about abortion. We understand that he's not able to put the same thought together day after day and have it make any sense at all. It's something that we're not going to be able to dodge anymore.
I have an idea. Maybe this is what he's going for. Maybe because the dollar is worth so much less, even though the deficit is higher, the actual cost or the value of the deficit is lower because each dollar we owe is worth less.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. I know it's a good time to be investing in foreign money right now. Go get you some euros, that's for sure. Lowest point in a very long time. So
all I know is this is the very definition of voodoo economics.
Oh yeah.
Some of y'all are too young to remember that term. Mike and I we're right about that right age to remember the term voodoo economics. But that is what they're pushing right now out of the White House. It is voodoo economics. It is oogity boogity. Oogity boogity. The economy is getting better. Oogity boogity. Spend more money. Spend more money.
The problem is, Craig, you know what? I know what it is. He has too many kids. If he'd had an abortion, he'd be making more money.
Exactly. I have absolutely no idea what to say about this guy, but it is what it is. Just so y'all know, this is what we're dealing with in the White House.
There was a commercial in Florida here for years about mental health, and every time I see this guy, I think about it. They would say, and I'm gonna say the name of the place was ABC, right? But they would say, if you don't get help at ABC, get help somewhere. And all I could think is, will this guy please get some help somewhere? Can we please get this guy some help?
Good stuff. All right, let's move on to the next one. And we all know that this is the case when it comes to those who are on the left or those who are anti-gun. We all know that their claim is that they want to make the community safer, and by doing so, they want to remove firearms from the public domain. The problem with that is that they generally tend to just want to remove firearms from other people, right? They want those people to not have guns. When I say those people, that means people who are not them, who are not part of their elite group of folks. And by the way, this happens to be the same for New York City. There is a story at Bearing Arms by Cam Edwards. You guys all know Cam Edwards. If you follow gun stuff over at Bearing Arms, he is a phenomenal writer, commentator. But he's writing a piece with Rules for Thee and Not for Me, how a New York City Politico reportedly is packing at sensitive City Hall. Now, Mind you, City Hall has been deemed a quote-unquote sensitive place, meaning that even with a concealed carry permit, you are not supposed to be carrying in City Hall. But this particular Politico, Mike, has decided that, I don't really have to pay attention to the law. I get to carry at City Hall.
Well, again, right? You got rules for thee, not for me. But it's a Orwellian, right? Animal Farm. Some pigs are more equal than others. Just because the rules are here doesn't mean I have to abide by them. And this is what you see, right? We're going to make the entire place a sensitive island. We have Governor Hochul. Short for the office. Hopefully, Governor Hochul. She's put these rules out. We know that her and her people don't pay attention to them. We see that Mayor Adams now following Hochul's examples, of declaring everything a sensitive place, and that his people are not, abiding by them. Also, it's clearly that elite, that entitled, that royalty family kind of attitude that we continue to see from this party over and over again.
Oh yeah. So the guy we're talking about specifically is the Chief Technology Officer. His name is Matt Frazier. He's refused to comment. This was actually from an article in the Daily News. All right. It says here, he's had a license for over a decade. And by the way, I don't begrudge a guy for getting a license, but let's be real. The only way you get a license to carry in New York City is if you are politically connected. And that's exactly what he did. And that's why he then turned around and got this appointment, got this, this cushy job there, has this cushy job there in the city. And what they say is he has not carried openly. He has not openly carried since officially assuming the role of Chief Technology Officer. Well, first of all, you can't openly carry in New York. Am I incorrect on that, Mike?
You are correct, but I'm willing to bet, Craig, that the person that they got to comment on this article is so deficient in their Second Amendment and firearms knowledge that when they said openly carry, they probably referred to, he carries, but we know about it. He's out.
That's considered open carry.
Yeah.
No.
He's openly carrying because he.
So in other words, he's carrying. He's just not telling anybody. That's concealed carry.
Yeah, that's concealed carry. Yeah. That's.
Once again, and then they wonder why we take issue with them. It's like, how can you expect us to take you seriously when you want to disarm us, but you aren't willing to disarm yourself or your friends?
Yeah, I believe that's called Alyssa Milano syndrome, if I recall correctly. Samantha. If anybody that's followed Second Amendment activists and anti-Second Amendment activists, she can carry because she's important. So
right, she's important. She's part of the elite, and you and I, we are not.
That's correct.
All right, and by the way, this now brings us along to our parting shots. We've got a couple of really good ones. The first one falls right in line with what we're talking about when it comes to the Second Amendment. How many times have you heard people say, look, they didn't expect semi-automatic, 30-round Clipazine magazines with fully automatic to fire 2 million shots in 1 minute. I mean, all they had was muskets. Well, just so you know, the musket was actually the original assault rifle. 1774 was banned from import. That's right, England banned us from being able to import them into the United States. In 1775, the British attempted to confiscate our firearms here in what was not these United States, but at the time it was the colonies. And then in 1776, we had a revolution. And by the way, just so you know, these are weapons of war. Muskets. We're talking about muskets.
Yeah, exactly right. April 19th, 1775, right? Lexington and Concord, they came to take them away from them. And that's the shot heard around the world, Yeah, you want my rifle? Come on, take it. You take that end first, though. Just so
I know. Look, I will give you my rifle one round at a time.
That's it. Just give me a minute to reload it. Yep.
There you go. All right. There's new news coming out of the CDC, Michael. And I had this special alert about a new disease that is coming out. But luckily, there is a cure. So I'll give you that little heads up in the beginning. So this straight out from the CDC. It says the CDC, or the Center for Disease Control, has issued a warning about a new virulent strain of disease. The disease is called gonorrhea. Once again, it's pronounced gonna reelect. It is capable of crippling our entire population. The disease is contracted through dangerous, high-risk behavior involving putting your cranium up your rectum. Ooh, that sounds dangerous. Sounds violent. Many victims contracted it in 2020 when they elected Joe Biden and liberal progressives into power and are now starting to realize how destructive this disease really is. Now, Michael, luckily, there's a cure. And that cure will take place on November 8th when all of the elections, all the votes are taken. Now, if you want to get vaccinated, here's what you got to do. Don't vote Democrat. That's how you get vaccinated. Mike, I know you're an anti-vaxxer, but I think you can support this one.
I'm an anti-vaxxer for me. Let's be clear about that, okay?
Okay.
It's my decision not to get one, all right?
But I mean, this is one you could take. I can believe you can not vote Democrat.
Oh, I could vote not. I could not vote Democrat. Yeah, that's
there you go.
That can happen.
So this is one that can work for you.
Just to be clear, Craig, that if you are voting, remember in person, it is November 8th. If you're voting Democrat, it's the day before actually. So
the day after.
So yeah, that would
November
too.
9th.
Yeah,
November 9th. Because you don't want to. Yeah, November 9th. November 9th. If you are voting Democrat, just so you know, Republicans vote November 8th. Democrats vote November 9th.
That's it. That way there'll be less fights. We won't have to face each other at the polls.
Exactly. There won't be lines. There won't be lines.
That's right. They separate them. Yep.
All right, Mike. How about that shout out to our sponsors?
Let's say hi to our good friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. Make sure you log on there, take a look at the barrel you need, and go get you one at hitmanindustries.net. Fighting a good fight behind the enemy lines. Make sure you reach out to the California Republican Assembly. Maybe show them a couple dollar bills, y'all. They could always use that to fight the fight. It's election season after all. And then, of course, if you want some awesome combat gear, tactical gear, web gear, go to see our good friends over at uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. Remember, check them out. Tell them that the guys over at The Rundown sent you. And with that, we're going to call it a day. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We're going to be back tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel on Taco Tuesday.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Yummy, yummy in my tummy.